Hello and welcome. This is Jennifer McGuire and I'm a guest on Simon Says Stamp blog today. In this video, I wanted to give you some tips for creating sets of note cards to give as a gift, and I also want to give you a peek at the Heidi Swapp toner pen, which allows you to put foil wherever you want on a project. So I'm going to show you how to use that in the video also. Be sure to stay tuned until the end because I'll have additional tips. Okay, so in this set of note cards, I have 8 cards that I created. They're all similar designs, I just changed the colors up. I'm using the Simon Says Stamp Floral Bookmarking Stamp Set. This is a great stamp set. I love the flowers in it. And I'm going to stamp a cluster of flowers in the bottom right corner of this Nina White 80-pound cardstock piece. You could probably use any cardstock for this if you would like. Now I am going to show you the first one that I did because I wanted to kind of do a practice run before I made all 8 of the cards. So this is the first one. I'm using an apricot ink from Simon Says Stamp, and I'm double stamping it just to make it a little bit darker. You don't need to double stamp it. I just wanted a darker color. Okay, so after I've done my flowers, I'm going to add the little dots to the center with the Simon Says Stamp Duckling ink. This is a great yellow, and then little leaves with the Jelly Bean green ink from Simon Says Stamp. Next, I'm going to stamp a greeting from the new Hero Arts Kindness stamp set. 25% of the profits from this stamp set go to the Kind campaign, which is working to end bullying. So it's a great stamp set for a great cause. And I'm using that greeting on all of the cards in today's note card set. Okay, now I wanted to add a little bit of foil to these cards. Not much because I don't want to spend too much time because I'm making 8 of them. But I wanted to add little gold foil hearts and a gold foil edge along the bottom of this stamp piece. So I'm using the new Heidi Swapp toner pen. I'm going to start out by putting that thin line of foil on the bottom of this stamped piece. So I'm taking this other piece of cardstock as a mask. I'm lining it up right with that bottom edge, but slightly offset, so just a little bit of the bottom edge of my stamp piece is showing. And then I'm going to run that toner pen right along it. So anywhere I put toner with this pen, the foil will stick when we put it through a laminator or the Heidi Swapp ink machine. And I'll talk more about this as we go along. But first I wanted to add 3 little hearts of toner so that we can do foiling of 3 little hearts. So I'm just taking the toner pen and coloring the toner right onto my stamp. I don't know if this would damage my stamp, I'll be honest with you. However, it cleans right off. It doesn't stain the stamp. So since I'm cleaning it right away, I'm just not going to worry about it. Now, as far as how good of a stamped image you can get by doing this, it's just like using markers for stamping. Sometimes you can get really great results, sometimes it doesn't look so perfect, so you just got to kind of keep that in mind when you do it and not expect the absolute most perfect results every time. Okay, so now I have my little carrier sheet for my ink machine. I'm going to put my piece in here and then lay some foil right on top of that, pretty side up, and put it through the ink machine. I'm using Thermoweb's gold foil. I really like their foil. But I'm using the Heidi Swapp ink machine. Now you could use a laminator for this if you prefer. I used to use a laminator for these techniques. However, I got the ink machine because I like all the different heat settings on it, and I do believe that it is a bit better quality as far as even distribution of heat. So I have this on a heat setting of 3 or 4. They both seem to work for this. Just going to run it through, and anywhere there was that toner pen, the foil will fuse to the paper. The results will look very similar to whenever you print something on a laser printer, put the foil on and run it through a laminator. It will fuse to the paper. And I'll link to a video that talks more about that here. Okay, so now I'm going to peel this off and you'll see that the foil has transferred to that line along the bottom and to the hearts. I just think this is a great way to add little touches of foil here and there to your project. Now I wanted to show you another technique. Say you try putting the toner right onto your stamp and stamping with it and you're not happy with the results. Another way to get that toner onto your stamp is to scribble like a puddle of that toner onto a piece of scrap plastic or scrap acetate. Then take your stamp and tap it into the toner, kind of like you would on an ink pad, and then stamp that. That might give you better control and better coverage with the toner. It just depends. I've done a lot of playing around with different stamps and doing it both ways, and I've gotten pretty good results both ways. It just depends. Something that you need to play around with and practice with. However, if you just take the toner pen right to your project, put lines or color a word or whatever, you'll get great results every time. And I'll talk more about stamping with the toner pen at the end of this video. Okay, so now I've got this other example. Again, I'm going to take a piece of foil, lay it down. I'm kind of generous there with my foil. I have a lot of these pieces left over from a big project I did. You don't need to use that big of a piece of foil in order to make this work. So when I peel this off, you'll see that the gold has transferred beautifully onto the project. However, I did smudge this corner here. I smudged the toner pen before I foiled it. So the foil transferred onto the smudge. So I'm just taking a craft knife and scratching. I don't think anybody will notice that, so I'll leave it as is. So now I've created 2 examples here, and I'm pretty happy with the results. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a bunch more cards to go into this note card set. For the other cards, I'm also using some colors of Simon Says Stamp ink, and I'll link those below if you wanted to check them out. So I went through and first stamped the cluster of flowers, then I went through and did all the centers, and then I went through and did all the leaves. By doing this, you can save a lot of time when creating note card sets, just doing one step and completely before moving on to the next one. After I completed all of the stamping, I went ahead and added the toner trim along the bottom edge and the 3 toner hearts, and then I did the foiling. Okay, so now we just need to do the note cards that these pieces will go on. So I have some green Simon Says Stamp cardstock and a bold diagonal background stamp from Simon Says Stamp. Now I'm inking up the bottom with Jelly Bean green ink and stamping it along the bottom edge of the card. The rest of the card will be covered, so I don't have to worry about stamping the whole piece. So this isn't going to look real pretty here, but we're going to cover up most of it. Now keep in mind this ink will be kind of dark and splotchy, but it will dry nicely. So now I'm putting adhesive on the back of the panels. I've trimmed these panels down to be 5.5 by 3 3/4 so that some of that green will show along the bottom. And I'm just going to glue all the panels down. Normally when I do a note card set, I keep the cards pretty flat just so that the person who's sending the cards doesn't have to deal with the bulk. I just like to keep the cards pretty simple. Now, whenever I give a set of note cards to someone as a gift, I like to put them in a clear stationery box. I think this just looks really nice and you can see the cards from the outside. I also put in enough envelopes for all of the cards. However, I include one more envelope in case they do mess up. And then you can include other things in here. Now, sometimes I'll include little accents that you can add to the card, but usually I keep it pretty simple. I usually do include some postage stamps. You can save money by skipping this. You really don't have to, but I think it's a nice finishing touch. And I usually include some sort of nice pen in there also. Okay, so now I'm just going to take some twine and wrap it around. You could also use ribbon, but to be honest with you, I don't have much ribbon left. I've purged most of my ribbon. So I think twine works nicely and it doesn't cover up the cards inside either. I've made many note card sets over the past few years for friends and family. In fact, I give a set of note cards to my mother and my mother-in-law every Christmas, and I even made 65 sets once to give as favors at a bridal shower. I think everybody can appreciate handmade card sets like this because it's something we can all use. Over on my blog this month at jennifermcguireinc.com, I am hosting a Share Handmade Kindness Challenge where I'm encouraging people to give whatever they create. And I think this is a great example of something that you can give to someone as a kind gift and they can continue the kindness on also. Now before we go, I wanted to show you one little example of stamping with toner pen. I was going to stamp the word kindness on all of my note cards, but I was kind of running out of time, so I decided to keep my card simple. But I wanted to show you how this worked. If you just trace the toner pen onto your stamp, kind of like you would if you were inking up your stamp with a marker, and then stamp with it, you can get pretty good results. So here I'm putting the toner pen right onto my stamp, and I'll stamp this down. By the way, this stamp is stained from other black ink. The toner pen is not staining this stamp. Okay, so you can see the results here are pretty good. Now I'm going to take this and run this through my ink machine. I'm putting some gold foil down and putting it in my carrier sheet. This time I'm using a heat setting of 4. I don't know, 3 or 4 seems to work just fine. And when I run this through, you'll see that I get pretty good results. So you can do this. This is one of those things that it takes some practice. It takes some time, just like stamping with markers does. It's the same thing, but you can see the beautiful foil shine that you can get. I'm happy with these results, especially since the toner pen is very inexpensive. It's just a few dollars. And then I went ahead and did some stamping right over top of it, and we have another card example too. So there's a way you can take your stamps and your toner pen to create a set of note cards to give to someone as a gift. For more information, please head over to the Simon Says Stamp blog, and thanks so much for watching.